Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. So a lot of you have been asking me about a complete CI/CD pipeline, how to write it, how to execute it, and even I posted a poll last week, I guess, asking what should be my next video on the channel, and CI/CD won hands down even on that poll. So I am here today to explain you how to write an end-to-end CI/CD pipeline. And unlike the other videos, there are a lot of videos on the YouTube, but this will be very, very, very simplified. You will be able to write with very little lines of code. Will not use a lot of groovy scripting. To write Jenkins pipeline, we are using declarative groovy scripting, but I'll show you how to write this one with a very little lines of code. And the tools that we are using today is Argo CD. So this is Argo CD. We are using it for continuous delivery, and this is Jenkins that I'm using for continuous integration. That's it. So we'll just use two tools, and we will see how robust this CI/CD pipeline is. And trust me, this will be the future of your Jenkins pipelines, because end of the day, everybody is moving to the Kubernetes architecture, and the tools like Argo CD, they are GitOps based tool which are specifically designed for deployment on Kubernetes. So there are alternatives, like either you can go for Argo CD, you can go for Flux, but I'm not going into the comparison. Today we'll look into Argo CD, which is better according to me, which maybe in the future videos I'll explain you why Argo CD is better than the other GitOps tools. But yeah, going back, today we'll use Jenkins for continuous integration and Argo CD for continuous delivery. And one advantage with Argo CD is you don't have to write even a single line of code. So let's say you're using Ansible, let's say you're using any other configuration management tools. So in such cases, you at least have to write your Ansible plays or your Ansible YAML files. But Argo CD, if you are a non-technical guy, you can configure everything through the UI, and installation is just two lines of code. I mean, not code, just two lines of script which you can copy from the internet, and you can install Argo CD, which, I mean, you can get it up and running in like less than a minute. So today I'm showing you the end-to-end part of it. We'll make a change to the, we'll use the same to-do application which we were using in the previous videos. We also did the same to-do application on Train with Shubham channel. So I'll continue the same thing. Firstly, I'll show that the to-do application is up and running, right? So I hope you're able to see my terminal. So we are using Minikube as a Kubernetes cluster, the same one that we were doing in the last video as well. So let me just show you that if I do Minikube service, okay, instead let me start from the beginning. I have deployed this application now. The application is already deployed, and our end goal today is to make change to the application, and the application is deployed. So firstly, I'll show you the application. Okay, so kubectl get svc. So my application is deployed as a Kubernetes deployment, and this is the service that I have. Now, to get this service running, either I can use ingress, or I can also create a tunnel. So what I'll do is Minikube service to do service is the name of the service, right? Which we are trying to do. There are other services which you can ignore. Okay, when I do this, Minikube will generate an URL to me. So Minikube, it will generate a URL for me, which I can use to access this service from my browser or any other place, right? You can use any other. Uh, okay, so this is the URL that I have. Perfect. This is a to-do service URL. Now let me go back to the same browser that we are using, and let's see how this application looks initially. Okay, so I can simply say this, and this is my to-do application that we are already using from the previous videos. Now what I'll do is I will slightly modify the header. We'll make a very simple change. Okay, so instead of to-do list, modify once again. What we'll say is to-do list Abhishek. Okay, so this is my to-do list. Okay, so okay, so firstly, let me show how I placed my applications. Okay, so this is my end-to-end application. This is a public GitHub repository. Even you can use this application. And so this is my GitHub account. I am Veeramalla. So you can simply use this URL. You can access this application. You can, follow me on GitHub so that you can frequently see what are the repos that I am posting. Everything that I do on my YouTube. Typically, I use GitHub for storing the artifacts. So you can follow me on GitHub. Okay, so without any delay, this is my to-do application. And So I'll make a simple change to this to-do application, and we'll see how this is deployed, and then we'll go to the technical details, right? How did I write a Jenkins file? How did I use this Argo CD? I'll show you. But firstly, let's start with the demo. Okay, so that you guys have an end-to-end understanding of what is happening. After we have the demo, we'll go and debug how did I write the Jenkins file, how did I install Argo CD, how did I configure it, which will not take much time. Even if you have zero knowledge on the end-to-end CI/CD pipelines, don't worry. With this video, you can understand everything. You can use the same GitHub repository for your demo purposes, for your practice, and you can deploy your applications with CI/CD. So firstly, what I'll do is I'll try to modify this one, to-do list modified once again. I'll change this to, okay, so let me change this to-do application, Abhishek. So for that, I need to open the index.html file. So this is, since we are already using this Python application, I know which file has which changes. If you're not aware of it, you can simply browse through the code, or you can use your Hello World application. But some of my viewers already know about this to-do application. And so this is the piece of line that we are trying to change. If you see here, to-do list modified once again, I'll change this to-do list Abhishek. Okay, now I'll commit these changes. Okay, so as soon as I commit these changes, my Jenkins pipeline will get triggered, and it will build a new image, and then using Argo CD will deploy the new image onto the Kubernetes cluster. There is zero manual intervention, but unfortunately I cannot trigger a webhook from my GitHub to Jenkins because of the firewall settings that I have and the workstation rules that I have. Okay, so it's very easy. I'll show you that process as well. Once you make a change, you can automatically trigger your Jenkins pipeline. But for now, we'll simply click on the build now. The configuration is not difficult, but I have some firewall settings which I cannot modify. So because of which, I'll use the build now button. So as soon as I use the build now button, now what happens is that a new Jenkins pipeline will be triggered, as you see here. And this new Jenkins pipeline, what it will do is it will pull the Jenkins file from the same GitHub repository. So what I have done is, within this repository, I have placed the Jenkins file. So this Jenkins file is written in Groovy. Let me increase the font. Okay, and this is a very simple Jenkins file. Okay, so this is the syntax of your Jenkins pipeline. If you're writing a declarative pipeline, you start with pipeline. Then if you want to define any agent for your pipeline, you can define. Agent is nothing but on which Jenkins node you want to execute this pipeline. If you want to use Kubernetes, or if you want to run it as a container, you can also define your Kubernetes configuration or your pod configuration here. But I'm simply using a Jenkins agent. Okay, so agent, I'm simply using a Linux node, and this is agent any. It can run on any agent. So there are different stages in my Jenkins pipeline. So the first stage is checkout, which will check out the artifacts. So while I'm explaining you this, the pipeline is running in the background. So let it run. Meanwhile, we'll see the configuration of the Jenkins file. So initial stage is checkout. What will checkout do? Checkout will take the latest changes. Now I made a change to my GitHub repository, right? So Jenkins will pull the latest change using this specific stage. So this configuration, let's say you are not aware how to write it. It's very simple. What you can do is that if you're very new to Groovy scripting or Jenkins, don't worry. Jenkins has something called as pipeline syntax. So come here, and let's say you want to write this same thing that I've written here. Okay. So what you can do is that if you're not aware on how to write this, come here, click on Git. Okay. There are different so pipeline syntax generator, what it will do is it will generate a syntax for you, and depending upon what command that you want to execute. Let's say I want to use https github.com. This is my, let's say let's assume this is my GitHub repository. Okay, I don't have this repository, but I'm just giving it as an example. And let's say my branch name is main. Okay, if you have any credentials that you want to access, you can pass in your credentials. So let's say I have credentials that are already stored in my Jenkins. Now simply click on this pipeline syntax script, and this is the same thing that you can copy in here. Okay, so it's very simple. If you don't know, and when you're using declarative pipelines in Jenkins, there are two different pipelines that you can use, either declarative or scripting. So mostly go for declarative pipelines, because declarative pipelines are a standard pipelines. And even if you have any issues, you can Google and you can find examples, anything, and you can also set up a common structure across your organization. But if you're going for scripted pipelines, it depends upon the developer to developer. So I can write it differently and you can write it differently. To keep the structure unique, and to keep the structure very formatted, you can use the declarative pipelines. So scripted pipelines also have some advantages, where if you have a flexibility of writing more and more code, or you have flexibility of solving things that are not possible with your declarative pipeline plugins. But okay, in our example, we are doing a very basic one, so I used a declarative pipeline. And the next stage is build Docker. That is very simple. I'm simply building using the build number of my Jenkins pipeline. And then I'm using the push artifacts, with which I'm pushing the artifacts to a centralized repository, which is Docker. And if you see here, the commands are very, very simple. After this, what I'm doing is I stored my Kubernetes manifest in a different repository. Okay, so this is my code repository, and this is so CICD end to end, right? So this is my code repository, and this is my artifact repository, where I have my deploy.yaml and service.yaml. Why I have to do it? I can keep it in the same folder as well, but there is a reason. It is always a good practice to have your artifacts, that is your Kubernetes artifacts, in a different repository, so that you can implement the principles of GitOps. I'm not saying you cannot do it with the same repository, but to keep it unique, to keep it more safe, to adopt good principles of GitOps, you should always keep them in a different repository, so that whether you are managing configuration of your infrastructure like Kubernetes, or whether you're managing configuration of your hundreds of applications, so you can simply use a different repository, and you can ask your Argo CD to watch for this repository for any changes. Okay, perfect. So now let's go back to the pipeline. Where is this Jenkins file? Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm checking out my Kubernetes manifest repository, and I'm simply updating the Kubernetes manifest repository. Okay. So what I'm doing is I am updating the so let's say this is my deploy.yaml. Okay, so my deploy.yaml. Okay, let's go back. I'll show you the change that is submitted by Jenkins, so that you will understand what is the change. So if you see here, there is a change that has happened 4 minutes ago. Okay, this 4 minutes ago is the same change that we did. So what I have done is I have updated my Kubernetes manifest repo with the new tag. Okay, so if you look at the change that I have submitted. Okay, so what is the change my Jenkins pipeline has submitted? It has simply updated the image ID from 32 to 33. So okay, so what is this image ID 33? So if you look at my Jenkins build that has happened, okay, so this is the new image that Jenkins has built, right? So Docker push Abhishek FI CICD end to end 33. So this image is pushed to my Docker Hub, as well as Jenkins has updated the GitHub repository with the new image tag. Now, once this is updated, Argo CD, which is watching continuously this repository, what it has done is, if you see here, it has synced the configuration a couple of minutes ago. Okay, and if you watch the where is this? Sorry, if you watch the application, okay, so it is updated with the new image. So now if I go back, okay, let's go back, and if you see kubectl get deploy, and let's try to look at the kubectl edit deploy. Okay, and let's use the to do application to understand what is the image. Is the image updated by Argo CD or not? The responsibility of Argo CD is continuous delivery, and it has to update the image tag, right? So it has updated the image tag to 33. Okay, so let me repeat one more time. What did we do is okay, so we use the Jenkins file to initially look at the source code repository, which has my to do application code, and then the change that we have submitted, right? We have made a simple HTML change calling it to do application Abhishek. Okay, so my Jenkins file will build a new Docker image for this change that we have made. It will deploy the it will push the Docker image to Docker Hub, and it will also check out and update my repository which has the Kubernetes deployment manifest, right? So this Kubernetes deployment manifest has nothing but my uh, YAML files or my deployment files to deploy the to-do application onto the Kubernetes cluster. So once the new Docker image is created, the new Docker image is updated back to my Kubernetes, sorry, my GitHub repository, which has the deployment manifest. Okay, now let's call this back and see what has happened. So it's a to-do list Abhishek. Okay, isn't it very simple? How much time did it take for the entire pipeline? It hardly takes 30 seconds or less than a minute for the entire pipeline to be executed. And even if you want to write the same pipeline, it will not take more than 10 minutes, right? You don't have development skills, you don't have configuration, knowledge of writing groovy pipelines, or you don't have prior experience with Argo CD. Don't worry, I'll show you everything. It will not take more than 10 minutes. Okay, so now we are good with the demo, right? So to do list is updated to to-do list Abhishek. Okay, now let's see what I have done step by step. And in case you don't understand anything, make a comment, and I'll try to look into the comments. And if I feel that there is something that I have not covered in the video, I'll definitely make a new video, or we can go live and I can show you step by step again one more time. Okay, so and let's take a pause here. And if any one of you have not subscribed to my video, my channel, please take a minute to subscribe to my channel and like this video, and also comment on the video to tell me, like, if you want to share your experience watching this video, or if you like this, or if you don't like this, you feel that I can improve in explaining your specific thing, don't hesitate, please comment on this video so that I can improve in the next videos. Okay, so firstly, what we need to do, okay, to write this entire CI/CD pipeline, first step is that go to your GitHub repository. Let's say that your development team has this GitHub repository called CI/CD end-to-end. It can be any application. It can be Amazon. It can be Flipkart, anything. So in the root of your repository, what you need to do is you need to write a file called as Jenkins file. Okay. So what is the significance of this Jenkins file? It's nothing but when you create a Jenkins pipeline, or when you create a job in Jenkins, what this Jenkins job will do is that, so I'll show you how to even create that. Okay, it does not take much time. So come to your Jenkins. Okay, firstly you need to write a Jenkins file, and then come to Jenkins, and inside Jenkins you can select this pipeline type of your Jenkins job, or depending upon your requirements, the other things which I'm not going into the details. And let's call me test. Okay, once you create this pipeline, okay, if you come here, there are two options. One is you can write your pipeline script here, or the other way is you can use the pipeline script from the SCM. SCM is source code repository. So when you use this, it will ask you for your SCM path. When I say git, it will ask me for the git URL, and when I provide this URL, it will simply use the Jenkins file from your GitHub repository, and you don't have to write anything in your Jenkins file. Sorry, you don't have to write anything in your Jenkins job. What is the advantage that you get with it? So the thing is, if you're writing some things here, okay, let's say your colleague wants to modify something in your Jenkins file, and you wrote everything in you have not used pipeline script from SCM, and you have simply used the pipeline script. So you wrote something like this and he updated. Now you don't have a track of the things, right? You don't have auditing, or you don't have version controlling. Whereas if you're using the Jenkins file in your GitHub repository, or in your Bitbucket or GitLab, you have a track of things. So let's say I've modified something, you can go back and see, why is my Jenkins file working yesterday and not working today. So that's why it's always preferable to put your Jenkins file in a GitHub repository. Now once you do this, that's all. You can simply come here and you can execute your Jenkins file. So you can take a reference of this Jenkins file. I'll put this, like I told you, this GitHub repository is public. You can use this GitHub repository to create multiple copies. You want to try out some POCs, you want to do anything, you can feel free to fork this repository, clone this repository, do any changes that you want. Okay, I mean, you can create a copy of it, and you can make any changes that you want. Now, fine. Once I write this Jenkins file, the thing is, this Jenkins file will update my deployment.yaml. So now you will ask me, okay, this is all updated, but how will this actually get deployed onto my Kubernetes cluster? So the magic happens with Argo CD. So if you are new to Argo CD, Argo CD is a tool that is based on the principles of GitOps. What it will do is that whatever you put in your GitHub repository. Okay, so you can put your Helm charts, you can put customize, or you can put your plain Kubernetes manifest files like I did. Okay, so whatever you put in your GitHub repository, Argo CD will take those manifests and deploy onto your Kubernetes cluster. That's it. Okay, there are other advantages of Argo CD, that it can auto heal your configuration. So let's say somebody went to your Kubernetes cluster, they modified the deployment.yaml. So Argo CD will say, no, 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 Git in Git there is some configuration and you are trying to override this configuration, so I'll not allow thing. But for this video, it is out of context. For this video, you can simply remember that Argo CD is a tool that will take manifests or artifacts from your Git repository, whether it's Helm charts, whether it's customized, whether it's plain Kubernetes manifest, and deploys these things onto your Kubernetes cluster. So remember just that thing. Now, you can ask me that I don't have experience with Argo CD. How do I do this? It's very simple. Just fill this form and everything is done. So application name, you can give anything randomly your wish. You can call it test. Project name, stick to default. Okay. And then here is the configuration. So do you want to do this automatically, or do you want to come to your Argo CD console and click on a button? So I want everything to happen automatically. So I say automatic. And do you want to auto heal? Auto heal is something that I just explained. If you want, select auto heal. If you don't want, if you just want Argo CD to use as a deployment tool, right? You just want Argo CD to pull the changes from GitHub and deploy onto Kubernetes, you can stick with this configuration. And here you can provide your GitHub repository, and here you can provide the path, and you can provide your Kubernetes cluster URL and the namespace where you want to deploy. That's it. Argo CD will pick all the changes and it will deploy. So in future, if you make any new changes, you don't have to bother about updating this GitHub repository at all. So this GitHub repository, which holds the Kubernetes manifest, is managed by Jenkins, and Argo CD will watch for these files and deploy onto Kubernetes cluster. So as a DevOps engineer, what you need to do is you just need to write this Jenkins file. That's it. Once you write this Jenkins file and you use, you also should come here and create a Jenkins job. Once you do it, your end-to-end CI/CD pipeline is completed. Right. So I'll also try to put the entire details that I've explained here in the readme.md file. So currently it is only updated with your application details. What does this to-do application do and all? But I'll also try to put the CI/CD end-to-end details that I've done, so that in case somebody did not follow this video well, they can look at the readme file and they can manually do all the steps that we have discussed. But to explain one more time, in a nutshell, we have executed the continuous integration and continuous delivery using Jenkins and Argo CD. So Jenkins is doing your continuous integration part and Argo CD is using your continuous delivery part. I have done a lot of videos on Argo CD on my channel. So you can go back to my previous videos and look into the Argo CD videos if you don't know things about Argo CD. But for this video, you can simply execute the steps that I've explained and understand that Argo CD is a deployment tool which pulls artifacts from GitHub and deploys onto Kubernetes without any manual intervention. So that's the video for today, and I hope you like the demo as well, where we made the live code change. In case you have any further questions, or in case you want me to come on a live and explain this using the setup and installation as well, like if you feel that you're not comfortable in installing or configuring Jenkins or installing or configuring Argo CD, we can go on a live video and we can do it together. But for that, please let me know in the comment section, and don't forget to like this video and share this video with your friends who want to learn CI/CD. Thank you so much. I'll meet you in the next video. Take care. Bye.